Hello. Okay, so today the system that I'm going to talk about that I think has problems that we should try to fix is the political system of the United States. Obviously that's like a huge system to try to tackle, but I'm just going to talk about a few main problems that I see with it, and then try to get some solutions to those problems. Okay, so the first problem that I would like to tackle is the fact that the independent party has relatively no chance at actually winning the presidential election, even though that there are statistics that show that a growing number of Americans do not identify as Democrat or Republican. So I think that's a problem because the presidential candidates aren't necessarily, their views aren't necessarily representative of the majority of Americans' views. And this is an institutionalized problem because the primary system and the electoral college system make it very, very difficult for a third-party candidate to win the nomination or the full election. The primary system makes it so that independent voters are virtually unrepresented in choosing who will appear on the general election ballot, and also the electoral college, like I said, makes it virtually impossible for a third-party candidate to win the election. So solving this problem is obviously challenging, so I looked into other people who had done research on this same issue, and I found a book written by Charles Whelan, and the book is called The Centrist Manifesto, and he talks about how we should get the independent party to have more power because it represents more moderate views that would be appealing to both Republicans and Democrats, and could perhaps move the country forward in a more positive direction. And he says that although it's not really realistic that we're going to get an independent party president anytime soon, he says that it's important to vote for independent party candidates for House of Representatives or Senate seats. And he also says that it's not enough for people to just not identify as Democrat or not as Republican. He thinks it's important for people to who don't align with Democrat or Republican to organize themselves, so that the independent party can gain more momentum, and hopefully one day we can have a third party candidate for president actually stand a chance. The next problem I want to tackle is a little broad, and it's just the role that money plays in politics. I think is a huge problem. Number one, I think it poses a problem just because in our Constitution it says that any citizen should technically be allowed to get involved in the political process if they want to. However, realistically, if you want to stand a chance in a campaign for Congress or for president, you have to have a lot of money. And we also see a situation such as with George W. Bush and Jeb Bush and their dad. People are being born into these really wealthy political families and sort of raised to be president or to be involved in the political system. So that's not necessarily... it's not equal opportunity for anyone who has good ideas and has motivations to change the country. They can't just get involved. They have to have a lot of money in the first place. Another issue is where specifically presidential candidates get their funding from, but this also goes to Congress and members of Senate and House of Representatives. We've been hearing a lot about this specifically with Hillary Clinton, because Bernie Sanders really stresses in his campaign that he gets funding from the grassroots level, from actual individuals who support him, whereas Hillary Clinton gets a lot of her funding from Wall Street. Some of her biggest financial supporters are the Lehman Brothers, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs, and those are huge players in Wall Street and the financial system of the United States. And while she claims that that's getting funding from them is not gonna infringe on her ability to make good decisions, I kind of think it's common sense that she is indebted to them. If they give her $700,000 to give a speech, she's gonna be in some way owe them something once she's in office. And I don't like that huge corporations like that have so much leverage over the political system, which should the political system should be looking out for all of Americans, not just the wealthy ones. So yeah, also I think this is specifically problematic for the environmental movement because you have companies like Citgo and oil companies that have so much money and so much influence in the political system, that really like any policy, environmental policy that tries to limit their ability to like make profit is not likely to get passed in Congress simply because they have so much influence over the people in Congress. And many times environmental efforts don't, like, doing what's right for the environment isn't necessarily what's going to bring you short-term profit. And I want politicians to be able to choose what is morally right for the environment for our country, not choose what's going to get them money so that they can be reelected in the next election. The next problem that I want to talk about is gender misrepresentation in our political system. Wait, how much time is left? Okay, I have to wrap this up. So there's less than 20% of congressional seats are taken by women. That's a problem given the fact that we make up like a little more than half the population. And also research shows that if we continue at the rate that we're going, like getting women represented in government, we won't have equal representation for another 500 years. And like, I don't know about you, but that's a little slow for my taste. So if we could like speed that up, that'd be good. Okay, so someone that is trying to, okay, so regarding the money situation, a solution for that I think would be passing legislation that encourages like transparency in campaign financing, but that's not even that good of a solution because the people who'd have to vote to pass that are the ones who don't want to be transparent with their financing. So if you have any ideas for that, like, check it out in the comments. Okay, and then USAID is putting forth efforts to get more gender representation in government in general. They have leadership courses for women, and they just promote like getting women into positions and into academic institutions that will give them the background and the knowledge they need to be effective political leaders. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.